Welcome to the Lou Riley Live Show, a podcast about health, wellness, motivation, and success. Now, here's your host, Mr. Lou Riley.
Hey folks, this is Lou Riley coming at you from Nashville, Tennessee with another episode of the Lou Riley Live Show. I want to take a moment to once again thank you for checking out another episode of my podcast. If this is your first time, welcome. Glad to have you. Please be sure to go back into the archives and check out some of my earlier episodes. Want to do a little housekeeping here. First off, please, if you don't have an opportunity to listen to my podcast over one of the social networks or on the website, the Spreaker website where it's being hosted, you can also check me out on iTunes. Simply go to iTunes, click on podcast, type in Lou Riley Live, and you see my show come up. You can also subscribe to my show on iTunes. Even better, if you've got an iPhone, if you've got an iPad, you can subscribe to my podcast, and whenever I come out with a new episode, your phone or your device is going to automatically update with the newest episode. There are a couple of different podcasting apps. One I use is called, and if you give me a second because my phone is literally in my hand. One is called Pocket Casts, C-A-S-T-S, and that's one of them. Another is called Podcast with an S, and you can go inside your app store, type in Pocket Cast or Podcast. They're two different apps. They're both free, and you can download my app and you can download that app, stay subscribed to my podcast, and be updated automatically so you can carry my voice around wherever you go. So I know a lot of times when I'm traveling across town or I'm on the road, sometimes I like to break the monotony of just listening to radio and put in a good podcast and just take a listen and, give a little something that's going to exercise my brain. So that's what that is. So again, make sure you subscribe to me on iTunes. You can make sure you download one of those podcasting apps on your phone and download or subscribe to my podcast so you can be automatically updated. I think I've said that 3 different ways. So today's episode, I want to talk about, I know the intro says we're about health, wellness, motivation, and success. And my first several episodes have all been about weight loss and tied into motivation and success. But today I want to take a moment to dip inside that motivation and success pool. And I've got a couple of notes with me, as you all can hear. I got sticky notes attached to those. That's the sticky note coming off. And I want to dip into some of the things that I go to when I'm in need of motivation. Sometimes we all need to treat motivation just like food. Eventually, we're going to become hungry. Eventually, that fuel that we put inside our bodies is going to run out. And you're going to need to refuel yourself again. Well, to me, and to many others, your level of motivation is much like that fuel. Like if you think of it as a fuel you put inside your gas tank. At some point in time, it's going to start running low. You're going to need to refill. So what things do you use to fuel yourself up? I know there are many people who tend to lean on religious information, be it the Bible or what have you, or what other documentation that you go to as a source of strength. And there are others who go to, there are many other sources. There are many people who are famously known for speaking on motivation and success and giving you a good, strong word. Some people, it happens for you in church on Sunday. Sometimes it's that song that speaks to you, speaks to your spirit, that you feel it inside your bones and you just move to action. Sometimes move to tears. Sometimes move to not necessarily act, but to take a bit of time to reflect on yourself and where you are or how far you've come from. And just take a moment to be thankful for where you are and having another opportunity, another day, another opportunity to continue striving to make this right. And I want to share with you guys a couple of things that mean a whole lot to me. Over my years of coaching youth, I've coached kids for quite a long time. I've kind of pulled up for the short term to take a little bit of a break. Got to get some things done for myself that I could be of of greater service. But in that time, I always felt that it took me years to come across things or to come to an understanding of life. And if I could pass along that that misunderstanding now having been figured out to some degree to someone way before I ever got that information, then just maybe I could help somebody else not go through the things that I went through, not to endure those struggles, and not that the objective is to create someone with a struggle-free life, because within that struggle, within any struggle, there's an opportunity for a lot of great things to be developed. A lot of time for you to find out many great things about yourself. And guys, that's one of the reasons why I'm so in love with sports and athletics. And not that you can't make it happen in other areas, but sports for me has been one of the greatest ways I've learned to discover who you are and to discover who you are not. And those of you who have been involved in sports, team sports and highly competitive sports, really understand where I'm coming from. And those of you who don't, just take a listen, because I can share and maybe you can pull apart something that I'm sharing and you can add it to what you got going on. Okay? So I want to share with you guys, some things about success. Specifically, some things that may help you get on that road. And first of all, one of the first things about success is, first of all, you got to have an idea of where you want to be. You got to want to be something more than who and what you are at this given moment. You got to have some kind of a vision. You've got to have an idea as to where you want to be, because the energy and the effort that you're going to be putting into it needs to be traveling along some path. And the world has been around long enough. People have been around long enough. Knowledge has been around and passed down long enough so that you won't have to necessarily be the first one to do a thing. And not that there's still not many firsts to be completed in this world. But a lot of times, we, and myself included, we tend to make things a lot more hard than they ever have to be. Simply because we don't do a great job of reaching out to other people who have already walked the path that we want to walk, and who may know something that we need to know to shorten the distance of our journey. Dr. Dennis Kimbrough, who probably, when I started really getting into reading about motivation and success, and his book, What Makes the Great Great, his book, Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice, Napoleon Hill's previous book, Think and Grow Rich, documents such as that started to speak to me, because they came from the aspect of somebody who had nothing. And not that I want to portray a person who had nothing, but where I came from, it would be very easy to fall into the traps of becoming what most people thought you would be. You see, one of the things that I've discerned from this life that I've lived is that people have a place in which they need to have you remain. They have a comfort zone already set up for you, and if you don't fit inside that comfort zone, they're going to, if you allow them, they're going to force you inside that box that they need you to be in, because as long as you're inside that box, they can deal with you a lot better. As long as you're inside that box, they can understand you. They can accept you. You are who they think you should be. But if you're somebody who knows, and who knows that they know that there's so much more that you're supposed to be than you've exampled thus far in life, at some point in time, you would hope that it becomes difficult for you to fit inside that box that others have created for you. You see, along the path to success, one of the things that hinders us is that we tend to try to live to please other people. You understand? We tend to try to live to please others, to make sure others are comfortable, not really considering that it is our life and that we are responsible for what becomes of it. But because it may be a good thing, may be a bad thing, probably a little bit of both, but people are always going to be critical of whatever it is you do or don't do. And I don't know the words to make you look at it differently. All I can do is share with you that there are two different sides to everything. So there are those of us who are out here living a life, and it goes to the extent of we've gone to college. If you've gone to college, we've gone to college, or we've chosen a career that people will think is acceptable. Let me use myself as an example. What I realized when I was an undergrad was that, having an answer to what you want to do or what you want to be is a good thing. I believe that. If someone asked me, what do you want to be? My honest answer would be, I don't know, because I didn't. But what I learned was that the acceptable answer is to say something that sounds good. So I developed a little shtick. Hey, what do you want to be? Well, I'm a pre-med major, different from biology. I'm a pre-med major, and I'm going to be the second black podiatrist in the state of South Carolina. And that went over well. Family loved hearing it. It sounded good at parties. It was all good. But if you ask me if I lived and breathed podiatry, I would tell you no. Hands down, no. Forgive me for the you-knows. I'm working on those. But Dennis Kimbrough and countless others have said it in different ways. But I can recall, and I mentioned his name because it was like the first time that thing stuck is when I heard it from him. He said that we have two responsibilities in life. One is to figure out what we're supposed to be, and two is our spiritual growth. Okay? Said differently, but one of my favorite books, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. He says that to realize one's destiny is a person's only obligation. The only thing that you're obligated to do in this life is to realize what you're destined to become. And it sounds easy, but people spend lifetimes. Some people die and leave the face of this earth and never fulfill that thing that they're supposed to become. And so you may ask, well, Lou Riley, you sound good, but how does somebody even get an idea of what they're supposed to be? Well, I'll tell you, this is easy. What is that thing, or what are those things that you do that time seems to stand still? The days aren't long enough. 24 hours isn't enough time in the day to get into doing that thing when you're doing it. What's that thing that you would do for free? What's that thing that when you're doing it, you get a chill in your bones and you feel re-energized over and over and over again, and you could just stay here and just be here and do this, and if this is all that you ever had to do, your life being complete? What's that thing for you? And if you haven't experienced what that thing is yet, then you need to get out and do some more living, because it's out there. Because it's simply my belief that we all have a purpose. We all have a purpose. And it is an obligation to figure out what that purpose is. Now, why is that important? Here's how I got this thing figured out. I was raised in the Baptist church. New Hope Baptist Church. What is it? 2900 Appleton Street in Accoby in Charleston, South Carolina. Gosh, I think I got the address right. But one of the things that being raised in the church, you always fed Bible verses. You fed Bible day in, day out, especially when you had that quote-unquote praying grandmother who believed in that old-time religion, who passed those values on. And those of us who took advantage of those lessons, because I'm connected to some people on Facebook, and it's just so funny that, older people, when you would ask questions that they didn't think you were ready to understand the answer, they would simply say, or my grandmother would simply say, son, you just live. You just live. You just live. And I tell you, I find myself some days just thinking about things that I understand now in life, and I just laugh, and I'm amazed at how wise she was. She's no longer here with us, but just amazed at how wise she was, and sure enough, you keep on living. These things are going to be revealed, and you're going to have an opportunity to understand, or you're going to have an opportunity to accept or reject. That's on you. But here's one of my thoughts. I think that part of the reason that we as a society are so disjointed is because we don't speak the same language. See, there's a story that I can remember about the Tower of Babel, and I'm a very loose paraphrasing of the story. No disrespect intended, but the gist of it I want you to get. It says that there were people who were erecting or building a structure to reach the heavens, and they were making very good progress with the structure. And that God, in his infinite wisdom and also within his jealousy, as the Bible speaks on, came down and afflicted the people with different languages. And when the people started speaking different languages, their progress came to a halt. And whether that's an actual true story or whether it's a lesson to be learned within the story is for you to decide. One of the things for me is I realize that part of the reason why so many things are disjointed is because we don't speak the same language. And maybe we don't speak the same language because there are those of us who haven't figured out what our language is. And by saying that, I mean, what is your passion? What's your passion? What is it? What is that thing that God placed you on this earth to do? You see, for me, and I know that I'm still figuring this out, but I know that I'm supposed to be saying something to a group of people. Be it a lot, be it a few, because I got something to say. And I just always knew that. And for a long time, I would say that, hey, I want to be a motivational speaker. I just have that gift, I believe. And I've been told by others, I have that gift of speaking to people and saying a thing in a way that some people get it. And I'm going to rightfully assume that not everybody's going to get the way I say a thing, but I think for those people who are charged with hearing my voice, with receiving what I have to give when it's of a pure nature, I think that they're going to get it. So let me move a little further ahead. I got a bunch of notes, and I haven't gotten to one, and we're 17 minutes into this podcast. And believe it or not, I was actually sitting around for a couple of hours trying to plan this thing out, because I guess I've got a lot on my mind, a lot sort of weighing on me, and nothing impossible, because we all deal with things all the time. But I've got to make a trip home for a very special event, for a very special somebody in my life. And there are a lot of backstories to that. But what I do know is that I'm going to make that trip, and I'm going to be the person in control of my own destiny. And I know what the end result is. And now, between now and my trip home while I'm driving, I'm going to start filling in the blank spaces so that I can know and see and put myself in these situations way before I get there, so I will understand how people are going to react and respond, so that I can be prepared to handle whatever may come. Okay? Just wanted to get that out there. Hopefully when I listen to the replay, that fits in this thing somehow. But that's a part of having the confidence to step forward and accept your destiny. So many of us have a fear of failure. So many of us have put in the time, we've put in the work, and we are deserving of the gifts that life has in store. But for some very reason, at the very end, we find a way to get in our own way. I can remember my elementary school principal, Mr. Wheeler Hughes at Shakori Elementary on Success Street in North Charleston or Charleston, somewhere between the two, South Carolina. I had a classmate. Donna was her first name. Can't remember her last. But Donna was a good-spirited girl, high-spirited young lady. And Donna would, on one hand, do some very good things. Then on the next moment, she'd get in trouble. And our principal got over the loudspeaker after Donna had gotten into trouble someday. She just had a tough day, a tough moment. Had a good day, then it turned real bad. But the principal got on the intercom and compared Donna's actions to a cow who gave you a great pail of milk. And once you were finished collecting that pail of milk from the cow, at the very end, the cow kicked it over. Same concept. You've put in that work. You've been patient. You've ran the race. You've done what you're supposed to do. But right before you are to receive that thing that your actions say were promised to you, for some reason, we kick that bucket of milk over. Or we find a way to get in our own way. And I've done that so many times in my life. And I can remember sitting inside MLK Auditorium during our football meetings on a Friday night when our coach would bring in a local pastor, Reverend Joyner, I believe was his name. I'm almost sure was his name. I remember raising my hand and speaking to him and saying, I remember my question sort of. I was like, what is it when you know you can do better and you try it, but it just doesn't work out, but you just know you can do better? And his response to me was, that's a person who's afraid to live. Some of us have a fear of success. Why? I can only speculate. But one thing that I've learned, one of the many things that I've learned, is whenever you step closer to becoming the person that you are supposed to be, there are going to be people who are going to disqualify themselves from your life. And the saddest part is that some of those people we call mom, dad, brothers, sisters. We call them friends. We call them aunts and uncles. We call them families. We call them confidants. We call them our inner circle. But the truth is that they were never made or never meant to make that journey with you. It reminds me of flying on an airplane and going through the airport and going to the counter right before you go on the walkway to get to the plane. They have this thing right before you get on the plane. They show you that, hey, if your luggage does not meet these specifications, then you can't take it on this plane with you. It's either got to go under the plane and you can pick it up once you get there, or you got to leave it behind. And in so many ways, that's what success is to people who are not made to take that journey with us. It's always said that some people enter your life for just a season, for just a reason. And your path to success contains just those type people. Some of you under the sound of my voice right now have people in your life that you know you got to get rid of. They make you feel good. They kind of cover up some of your insecurities. But in order for you to make that next step, it's time to let them go. And you don't have to do a cold turkey. I don't know if it's necessarily the right way to make that happen. But what I do know is that the more time you spend on doing what you're supposed to do, the more you're going to attract others who are on that same journey. And you're going to have just less time to spend with those who don't. It's kind of like what I saw when I went to college. I didn't end friendships with people who didn't go to school. It was just that my life had taken on a new direction. And I have new things that I'm experiencing. And these new things, it's a 24/7 deal. So I'm not even in the same city anymore, let alone around the same people. And over time, the relationships tend to, I don't want to say weaken. I've got people who I'm still, I believe, very close to, but the nature of our day-to-day relationship has changed because we've gone in different directions. And I'm not here to say that somebody's going in the wrong direction. All I'm saying is that I'm on the direction that's going to take me to where it is I'm supposed to be in this life. And I pray and I hope that everyone decides to take that journey for themselves. But it's not easy. It's just not easy. It's not easy because so much of it involves things that you can't necessarily see. You can't see it. Sometimes you can only feel it. Sometimes you just believe it in your bones that it's there, and that's the thing that keeps you going. And when you start operating, that's what they call faith, right? Evidence of things unseen, substance of all things hoped for. My bad. How'd I mess that one up? being facetious, guys. But oftentimes, the only thing that you have to go on is just your belief. It's just your belief. And it's sad to say, but so true, that everybody's not going to believe in you as hard as you need to believe in yourself. And sometimes you've got to step out on your own faith. And it does not matter how much they laugh at you. It doesn't matter how much they talk about you. It doesn't matter how much they disagree with you. If you are walking in that path that you and only you were destined to be on, there's going to come a day that you're going to that they're going to be on your side, or want to be on your side, or want to be around you. You know, as Gandhi once said, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. I'll say that again. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. Guys, that's my time. This is Lou Riley with another episode of the Lou Riley Live podcast. If you have not yet, please visit iTunes, type in Lou Riley Live, subscribe to my podcast. Also, if you've got a cell phone, you've got an iPhone or an iPad, go to the App Store, download one of the podcasting apps, and subscribe to my podcast so that you can listen to me at your convenience. All right? Guys, you all take care. I've got much more to talk about. You hear my papers, right? I hadn't even gotten to these. I guess that's just an intro. But guys, you all take care. This is Lou Riley signing off, and I'll see you all in the next episode.